I just love the smell of propaganda in the morning.
Well, that was a movie.
Hello and welcome back to Simon's Rants. I'm Simon, and today I'm talking about the new Netflix movie, Mank, which was directed by David Fincher and starring Gary Oldman. So in case you don't know what this movie is about, it follows Herman Mankiewicz, who's a screenwriter played by Gary Oldman. It follows him as he works on Citizen Kane, as well as different political drama and different stuff going on in Hollywood at that time. It centers around the idea that he was the main contributor behind the script for Citizen Kane despite not being fully credited for it. This follows the theory that he was not only a screenwriter for the movie, but the driving force behind the plot of the film as well. This film goes as far as saying that he actually wrote the movie, not just the script. He didn't just write the screenplay, he came up with specific plot points and character names and stuff like that. And then because of how his contract was written, Orson Welles didn't have to give him credit and then took all the credit and ran, essentially. And in case you don't know, this isn't a new theory. This theory has been out there for a while, and in case you don't know this either, has been debunked. This isn't true at all, and anybody who still believes it is a conspiracy theorist. This isn't what happened. Screenplay writers don't come up with the story. They are typists for the storytellers. If you don't want to write your own script, you just want to tell a story like Orson Welles may have early in his career because he wasn't a filmmaker yet. This was his first film. Then you hire a Hollywood, or at least a professional scriptwriter to write your story for you. They'll help with the finer details of script writing. They may give you advice on pacing and different things like that, but they are in no way coming up with the story. This is what Mankiewicz did. He had even worked on successful movies before, like The Wizard of Oz. And right now you're probably saying, wait, so he wrote The Wizard of Oz? So he's a great screenwriter, right? If you go to IMDb and go to the writer section under The Wizard of Oz, you will find Noah Langley, Florence Ryerson, Edgar Allan Wolfe, L. Frank Baum, Arthur Freed, Irving Brecher, William H. Cannon, Herbert Fields, Jack Haley, E. Y. Harburg, Samuel Hoffenstein, Burt Lair, John Lee Maine, and then Herman J. Mankiewicz. And then there's also another few people after that, totaling 20 credits in total. And he's not even in the top 5 of those. He had minimal work to do with this movie. He was a typist, essentially. That's his job. He doesn't come up with the story. He doesn't write anything interesting. He's just the one there typing it out. Essentially, that's what screenplay writers do. Now, they may, if they're good screenplay writers, have some input on the story. And a lot of times, storytellers are their own screenplay writers. That's what Orson Welles eventually became. I think probably because of the controversy around this. He didn't want anybody else messing with him. He probably also didn't want anybody else to try to take credit again for his work, because that's what happened with this movie. But like I said, that's been debunked. It's not true. Orson Welles wrote this movie. And if you don't believe me, just look at their track records. This was Orson Welles' first movie, yes, but look at the rest of the movies he made after this. He made so many good movies. But look at Mankiewicz. What else did he do? He did The Wizard of Oz, like I said, as one of 20 contributing writers. After that, he's done nothing. So to try to say that he was the brains and the genius behind it is completely out of left field. Maybe I should just start taking credit for random things and people will make movies about me backing that ridiculous claim. You know what? That's it. I helped write Inception, guys. I've been keeping it hidden all these years, but I can't let it go anymore. There was a contract dispute between me and Nolan. I actually wrote Inception. Give me the credit. Make a movie about me, please. But anyway, so yeah, I didn't like this movie before I already saw it, I'll be honest, because I knew it was a dumb conspiracy theory movie. But I had to watch it to give it a fair review. So here I am. I just watched it. Let's give it a fair review, okay? So this movie is fine. It's fine. I'd give it like a 6 out of 10, I think. And if Fincher's name wasn't attached to this movie, it would be a 6 out of 10 instead of a 7.5 on IMDb. Side note, this movie a week ago was an 8.1. It's already dropped down to a 7.5. I expect that to keep going down. Like I said, this movie isn't anything special. If Fincher's name wasn't on the poster or in the credits or anything like that, I would not have guessed that this was Fincher. There was nothing about this movie that was interesting or noteworthy that would have pointed me in his direction to say, this is the same guy that did The Social Network or Gone Girl or any of his movies. It doesn't reflect on his previous career. Nothing about it is interesting or different or Oscar-worthy in any way, and I'm just saying that because it's gotten so much Oscar buzz before it even came out. I think maybe that's Netflix trying to push their movies, saying this could win an Oscar, but it shouldn't. If it wins a single Oscar, That is a complete fallacy. That's just an error. That shouldn't happen. This movie honestly actually reminds me a lot of last year's Lighthouse because they're very similar. You've got the black and white gimmick, you've got the old-fashioned style, you've got a main character that's overacting a bit, and that's it. The rest of it is paper thin and there's nothing else to it. Now I know I did just say that Gary Oldman was overacting in reference to Willem Dafoe, but it's not really that comparable because Gary Oldman, we've seen him go a lot hammier than he went in this movie. He was somewhat restrained for Gary Oldman, but at the same time, the contrast between him and the rest of the cast who looked like they were sleepwalking was pretty stark. And it wasn't stark in a good way, like, oh, look how good Gary Oldman is in this performance. It was just, man, everybody else sucks. Because he wasn't particularly good, and I don't know which is more to blame, the awful dialogue that he had to try to get through, or the mediocre directing that was on display throughout the entire film. Like I said, Fincher is a great director. I don't know what went wrong here. And I know that this movie was trying to be a love letter to Hollywood, a period piece from the 1930s and 40s, but it was half-assed at best. They did the black and white, and they did some old-fashioned film editing tricks, it looked like, and they also had a change reel marker pop up every like half hour, which was kind of odd and distracting. Anyway, you've got certain things looking like it's trying to be authentic and old-fashioned, while everybody's talking in pretty much modern accents and acting in modern acting techniques. Nobody's looking like they're trying to mimic the old-fashioned way of doing things really at all. So it's kind of half-assed is the best way to put it. They went halfway and didn't do the rest. So it doesn't feel like a period piece. It doesn't feel authentic. It just feels odd and fake. Because if you're going to do something part way, it's going to feel somewhere in the middle. This didn't feel like a 1930s or 40s movie whatsoever. And it didn't really feel modern either. It felt more modern than it did feel 1930s and 40s. But honestly, it just felt like something brand new that wasn't particularly good. It just annoys me that this movie was complete fabrication. Nothing in this movie was real. Gary Oldman's character wasn't really friends with Amanda Seyfried's character in real life. That didn't happen. He didn't actually write this script and then Orson Welles tried to steal credit for it. That's not what happened. There was a bunch of political BS in this movie that wasn't actually real either. I even fact-checked it just to be sure. I did a quick Google search and found out that, yeah, pretty much the entirety, if not literally the entirety of this movie was fabricated. It's just another attempt by Hollywood to smear the name of Orson Welles, and if you don't know why they would do that, you haven't been paying attention to the history of Orson Welles. Ever since Citizen Kane, Hollywood has been trying to defame this man and take everything they can away from him because he burst onto the scene as a 24-year-old no-name kid and made the greatest film of all time without any help from Hollywood. So of course, yeah, they kind of hate him and want to ruin his career. Also, by the way, a lot of people thought that Citizen Kane was a dig at Hearst and also a dig at a lot of elites in Hollywood. Orson Welles did deny that that was what the movie was about, and of course that's what he would have to say, but I honestly believe him. I think that this movie was more of a cautionary tale and a semi-autobiographical introspective piece. I think that the end of Citizen Kane, spoiler here, in case you haven't seen the greatest movie of all time, get on it. I think at the end of Citizen Kane, with the whole Rosebud thing, it was trying to show that Kane wanted to be, in his heart, still a child. He longed for that innocence. He longed for that childlike freedom that he used to have. And I think that was something that Orson Welles was trying to say about getting into Hollywood. I think that he was trying to say, if you get all this power, you get all this money, you get all this fame and recognition, you still have nothing. And at the end of the day, you'll still wish that you were a kid. You'll still wish that you had the freedom of being a child. I think that was the point of the movie. Now, does that sound at all like a defamation piece against some political figure or a newspaper tycoon or somebody in Hollywood? That's not the point of the movie, and if you think it is, it's because either you haven't watched it, you didn't pay attention while watching it, or you have a guilty conscience and you think that he's trying to attack you through his art piece. I think the intentions of Citizen Kane were completely innocent. Call me naive, call me ignorant, call me whatever you want, but I think that's what he was trying to say with it. And I think him getting into film so quick and so naive was what really did him in, was because he stumbled in, talked about something to a room of people that he had no idea, he didn't know how to read the audience. He was just speaking his mind freely as an artist, as a philosopher, to a group of high-budget filmmakers who were cynical and depraved, and he starts talking about how power leads to cynicism and power leads to corruption to a bunch of people in power. He's trying to make this artistic point just happily going along his way, and of course, they all hate him for it. And it's sickening that Hollywood still can't seem to get over it, because as we know, it's been proven that this theory that this movie was based in has been debunked. There is no truth to it whatsoever, yet Hollywood puts out another movie talking smack on one of the greatest filmmakers to ever live. Yeah, I think Hollywood needs to get over themselves a little bit here. I don't know why I'm surprised. I don't know why I am. It's almost like the people that were in Hollywood in the 1930s and 40s are still alive today running everything. This is ridiculous. Even if you say that he didn't write Citizen Kane, for whatever reason, if you're trying to take that away from him, for whatever reason, he still made some of the best movies ever. And I ask you again, what did Mankiewicz do? Nothing. He didn't do anything. So, yeah, this movie, Mank, from a technical standpoint, was fine. It was better than it wasn't, hence the 6 out of 10 rating. But the story is so bad. It's either fiction or really bad nonfiction. I don't know which it's supposed to be, but either way, I didn't enjoy it. So if you weren't paying attention, I've seen a lot of people on Twitter all excited for this new movie about Orson Welles. Sorry to burst your bubble, that's not what it is. It's not. It's not about Orson Welles at all. They do have a small cameo by a person named Orson Welles in this movie, but that Orson Welles is not, in fact, based on any real person, apparently. This film, instead, however, is about a nobody in the 1930s and 40s who accomplished pretty much nothing with his life and tried to take credit from other people who accomplished so much more. That's what this movie was. Does that sound entertaining to you? I guess maybe it could be to some, but it's not to me. So that's what I had to think. Gotta love 2020. These movies keep on coming. I'm Simon from Simon's Rants, and that was my rant for today. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe if you're new here. Thanks, guys. Bye.